Hello, single Fruit Loop watching. In the spirit of the Christmas or holiday season, not discriminating if you don't support Christmas or whatever, I'm going to be talking about something that isn't Christmassy in the slightest. Today I'm going to be talking about ships. And, well, shelf inserts. All that fun stuff. To preface, if you do any of this, it's, like, perfectly fine. This is just my sort of rules and regulations that I go by when writing and or role-playing. Which I'm still going to have to do another roleplay video sometime. But the image in the background was a drawing I made for my friend of her roleplay characters from actually a story roleplay thing we've been working on together. It's based off of Marvel, but it's more so just kind of everything and anything we wanted to throw together. It started off as Marvel, but it's definitely gone a little past that, but I'm just drawing her characters for Christmas. So I guess the image is Christmas related, so I can call this a Christmas video? Either way. To start off, let's talk about self-inserts. Now this is something we've all done. If you haven't done this, you're lying. But self-inserts is something that, again, we've all done. Everyone's made a self-insert at one point or another. Actually, the character I used to represent myself, Scrape, from 12 Realms, which is my original series, was originally, well, actually, I can't say that because they weren't originally a self-insert, but they turned into a self-insert. It's a long story. I'll probably make a video on that more in depth, but Scrape originally was a self-insert. Still is, sort of. They're a Sona, which I guess people could argue there's a difference between self-inserts and Sonas. Oftentimes people use the term self-insert as a derogatory statement towards a character, whereas Sona is just more so a character used to represent a person, which I guess they both are. But either way, I am basically just going to be talking about why I personally don't care if your character is a self-insert or not. Because as long as they're a good character, it doesn't matter if they're based off of a person, if they're based off of you, or if you just birthed them out of your frickin' mind vagina. Like, I don't understand why people get so up in arms. And even if they're not a good character, that doesn't matter. Like, now this is probably going to turn a lot of heads or create some drama or whatever the fuck. But, oh, also, cop out, my videos aren't for kids. I swear I'm not a good person. But oftentimes when people create characters that are Mary Sue-ish or Gary Sue-ish or non-binary term Mary Sue, or create self-inserts, which are often seen as Mary Sue's, whatever. When people create characters, there's often this thought that we need to have them fit this certain mold, or we have to have XYZ amount of people like our characters. And if XYZ amount of people or this certain person doesn't approve of my character, I'm going to be using Scrape as an example, well then they aren't a good character. That's completely false. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks as long as you yourself enjoy the character and you yourself have fun with the character. Like, do you have fun drawing them? If so, great. If not, maybe consider revising them. Do you have fun writing them or role-playing them if that's what you use your characters for? If you do, amazing. If you don't, then maybe try changing the character slightly so that you do like it. And of course, critique is always welcome, at least on my characters, but critique also needs to be helpful, and that's a completely different video, which I might also touch on in this, but characters are characters. Characters are fictional. They are meant to be fun. Like, the characters that are up on screen, it's just the sketch right now, but they are not believable in the slightest. Like, they're believable as people, but, like, Moss, the one I'm drawing right now, has naturally green hair. V looks like, if you've watched Doctor Strange, the people that were the followers of Dormammu with the weird stuff around their eyes, that's not realistic in the slightest. V sort of has that sort of same ideal going on. There is an angel, there's the son of Loki, there's another son of Loki. Loki's a bit of a whore. But it's just... And then there's my characters. Like, I have demons, I have an angel demon hybrid thing. We don't know what the fuck he is. There's Nekokins, Nekojins, there's demons, I said demons. Like, and some of the designs I've made could be called Mary Sue-ish. Like, my character Mayhem, for example, who is a Skylanders character, which also originally started as a self-insert, which again, I'll touch on self-inserts and stuff. That was where I was originally going with this, but now I'm just talking about Mary Sue's and everything. I have no idea what I'm going to title this video. I'm just rambling. Scrape rambles on about characters for 50 minutes. That sounds about right. But Melissa Mayhem was one of my Portal Master OCs, which then turned into a Tech Skylander, which was then not a Skylander, but is a Skylander. She is now a Supercharger. At least that's the sort of rank she fits in. When she graduates the academy, that's what she's going to be put in the group of, is as Superchargers. Which, that AU is a whole other thing on its head. But I was putting her up for, freaking... Is this the end of the video? Okay. Sorry. I decided to have a big break. But, Mayhem, I remember on the Skylanders Amino again, I had put her up for, like, critique my character, or, like, someone is, like, hosting a, I will critique your character, put them in the thing below with their backstory and design. And again, I'm still sort of workshopping her design. I think it's gotten a little better. I'll try to draw her Chaos in Discord at some point, but I'm really neglecting that AU. But, I remember them commenting about how, because Mayhem was Chaos's sister, that she came off as Mary Sue-ish, and that I might want to revise that. Which, again, I guess it all depends on how you do it, but having a character that is the brother or sister or sibling of another character, in my opinion, and again, there's nothing wrong with having a Mary Sue or a Gary Sue character. Like, that doesn't make them, well, by definition, a Mary Sue / Gary Sue character is bad. But there's nothing wrong with having a quote-unquote bad character. The whole point of having characters is, and I'm probably going to repeat this a lot, but the whole point of having characters is that they make you happy. Now, if you're going to be going and selling these characters, or like making a franchise based off of them, well, and even then, there have been some quote-unquote Mary and Gary Sue characters that, like, that are in big franchises, like, and now I'm gonna get a lot of flack for saying this, but one topic that, somebody I watched, the Zodiac Lord, brought up in his video about Mary Sue's is, that Katniss Everdeen is technically a Mary Sue, even though you wouldn't think Mary Sue when you saw her. But And I really like his definition of Mary Sue's, which is a character that isn't affected by the narrative. And if you aren't already, I really suggest you go watch him. He's fabulous. But that's a little aside the point. But a Mary Sue is someone that isn't affected by the narrative they're put in. And yes, if a character doesn't have narrative, there's no real way to tell, and oftentimes people base it off of their design. But again, this is my personal opinion, but when someone is asking for a critique of a character, saying, oh, they look like a Mary Sue, change that, isn't a good critique. Like, what about them makes them come off as Mary Sue? Is it the color choice? Is it the personality? Is it, like, the fact that they have 5 wings and 10 eyes? Like, which there could be a character with that design choice, and they could make it work. Like, and this, again, is how I see it. And I'm going to keep repeating this, but there's nothing wrong with having a Mary/Gary Sue character. But if wow, I can talk. If they are affected by the narrative that they have been thrown into, like, again, we'll take Scrape as an example. For the longest time, I thought they were a Mary Sue because of their purple hair. And that fact that they're freaking half cat, half Halcyon nonsense, like, little creature. But when I took a step back and looked at it, Scrape isn't, because they're affected by their narrative. They mourn people they've lost. They have panic attacks over the fact that they are self-aware to the fact that they know they're a character. Like, which doesn't happen for a while in their story, but they suffer from a lot. At first part, they suffer from a lot of depression and anxiety and nonsense because of the fact that they have these powers that they don't know how to control. And then later on, rather than letting that get them down, they use their powers and try to hone them to their advantage or to protect other people that still believe their reality is real. That's stupid when I say it like that, but, like, taking a step back and looking at it, Scrape wasn't a quote-unquote Mary Sue, despite their Mary Sue-ish looks, or like what everybody thinks a Mary Sue looks like. And what was it? And even again, if Scrape was a Mary Sue, if they were a Mary Sue character, honestly, at this point in my life, I wouldn't give a crap because they make me happy. Like, as long as a character makes you happy, who the frick cares? Like, yes, if you're trying to improve your writing skills or, like, skills like that, and you're going to try to make them into, like, a character that the masses love, like the next Harry Potter, and even though Harry Potter is kind of a Mary Sue. Sort of not, sort of, in some points, you could argue that he is. But I'm not getting into that whole Harry Potter debate. It was a good series. I enjoyed it. The whole stuff going on with Dumbledore and everything is a little pissing me off. But that's a video for another day. But characters. It shouldn't matter if... What matters is that you enjoy the character and that you like the character you're portraying. If you don't, consider revising them. If you do, fan-fucking-tastic. Like, characters are made for us to enjoy. They're made for... Well, they're made for our enjoyment. That's what they're here for. It's a fictional world that we have created with our characters and our designs. And it shouldn't matter what someone else thinks. The fact that someone else dislikes our character or thinks that they're quote-unquote Mary Sue or Gary Sue or whatever the frick shouldn't take away from the fact that we enjoy them. Yes, we can realize that objectively they might not be the quote-unquote best character in the 9 realms, but like it doesn't matter. As long as we enjoy our character. And yes, over time we're gonna look back at our old characters and like I really wanna make a a video where I look back at Scrape's old designs and it's just like, oh boy, what the frick. But and again, characters are going to evolve as we evolve. They're not going to be perfect right off the bat, but as long as you enjoy the character, that's all that matters. Like, if you want your character to have neon flaming hair and a skin-tight dress, that's actually another character I have. I'm going off of my own characters. I got another Skylander character. Her name is Flame. And she's crazy. I love her a bit. I really need to revamp her in Century. But Flame was a demon character I created for the sake of a roleplay, which also ties into the current AU that I've been working on. Well, the second Leaf AU, which I've done a few speed paints on. That's old art, but if you want to take a look at them, you can. If anyone has any questions or you want me to go more in depth on my Skylanders AUs, feel free to comment below asking about them. I love answering questions about my work and everything, but she is the typical, basically kind of looks like a typical Mary Sue, like fair skin. She's very curvy, at least her current design. Again, I might revamp it a little bit because that's not really what appeals to me anymore. But as like young child still trying to figure myself out, here we go. I've got myself a video's ending. But it's like young child, pad of paper, just found out Skylanders for the first time. It's just like, I'm gonna create myself a character. And I think I made Flame after I made Mayhem, but Flame was the demon character, which I ended up revamping her a little bit afterwards. But in the beginning, she was just this demon that had been turned to stone and was going to be part of this whole, like, arc where Chaos was trying to find her and turn her back into flesh and blood in order to try to destroy the Skylanders with her amazing, fantastic fire powers. Like, and then from there, I ended up revamping her and she became Century. Well, Century and Flame. Century was a Portal Master character I created who was part of the original Great War. Like thousands upon thousands of years ago, the first war, she ended up finding this crystal. The first war in my AU was over the elemental crystals. I had a different term for them, but I can't remember it right now. But it was over these elemental crystals that each represented one of the elements or one of the ancients. It was like their remnants left over. And she ended up getting her hands on the fire crystal, which was, her element was fire, and like there was this whole thing where nobody believed she could do anything because she was one of the weaker portal masters of her troop. And at one point I had her going to school at the same time as Chaos, but then that didn't line up timeline wise because she's supposed to be thousands of years old, like around the same age that Eon is, slightly younger. But and again, humans in Skylands wildly different from humans down here. But she ends up getting her hands on this crystal, which is what her troop has been searching for in order to try to turn the tides of war. But rather than turning it into the troop leader, who was another, like, her troop was all fire elementals, because during the war they had to break off in factions and all that fun stuff. But rather than turning it in, she ends up merging with it. Like, trying to take in its power and having that consume her entirely, which is what created Flame. Flame was a parasitic, quote-unquote, demon. She was starting to notice demons. And it's kind of the same sort of story as Krona, where, like, consumed by, like, confused and consumed by power, she ends up turning on her troop, or at least that's how they painted it. In reality, I'm thinking I'm going to turn it to where, like, her troop ends up finding her and mistaking her for one of the Dark Portal Masters, which they were fighting against, and then sealing her away. Like, because Flame, completely new memories, has no memory of anything Sentry was going through, so these people start, like, coming up to her and shouting at her, so Flame's just like, oh, frick, gotta defend myself, like, animalistic instinct kicking in, and it's just like, fuck. But then, of course, they seal her away as a statue. I don't really know how she ends up getting unstatued, but then Spyro finds her and more roleplay AU stuff. But, yeah, I was talking about how at first, Sentry and Flame were most definitely, like, probably, for the most part, Mary Sue's. But I still loved them. Like, when I was young, I didn't realize what a Mary Sue was. I didn't realize that there were these supposed rules that had to go along with me making characters, where it was like, you can't do this, or you can't do that, you only have to do this. If your character breaks any of these rules, oh no, they're unbelievable. You know what? Sometimes having an unbelievable character is what a kid needs. Or any adult. Like, sometimes I've always used my characters as an escape. Like, Skylanders specifically, I used as an escape for the longest time. And I've kind of been drifting away from that fandom. I still love it to bits. But the more I've been coming to terms with my reality, the more I've been drifting away from Skylanders, because I don't need it as much to be a buffer for reality. But when I was little and still figuring myself out and figuring everything else out, and all of that fun stuff, I needed that buffer. I needed to put myself in the shoes of an unbelievable character in order to filter everything that was coming at me. And, like, using characters as a coping mechanism is something I've been doing for the longest time. And I could probably make another video going more in depth into that and how that sort of got me in cold water sometimes. But hot water, cold water, in trouble. At least from my perspective, it got me in trouble. Because, but having an unbelievable character, or putting yourself as a character into a franchise, is sometimes what we need in order to cope. At least that's how I always saw it. Like, again, at first, Mayhem was most definitely a self-insert of me, back when I still viewed myself as a girl, as awkward as that felt. I remember looking at my crappy old drawings when I was like, I don't know, when Skylanders had first come out. Also, this is completely off tangent. I can probably go on a whole video about quote-unquote Skylanders stole my ideas, but I remember one of the big things was Mayhem was working on a way of fusing elements. At least I thought that was what it was, but Mayhem learned how to fuse elements, and then Swap Force came around. It's just like, they're stealing my ideas. But, like, young me being able to create these characters without any guidelines or rules or anything made me feel peaceful. It made me feel comfortable with the state that my life was in. And, like, I call myself a kid. In reality, I was like 12, 13, which, yes, that's still really young, but it's also like, I don't know, honestly, like, thinking back. Anyway, before I get a little too existential for my own good, let's shift our focus more so towards self-inserts. And once again, along the same lines of Mary Sue's, there is absolutely nothing wrong with having a self-insert character or representing yourself with a canon character. For the longest time, I represented myself as Chaos from Skylanders. Like, little angry midget man who wants to take over Skylands because he's vengeful. And again, I projected a lot onto the character because that's how I felt. And then again, that's, like, self-insert characters and inserting yourself into a character are slightly different. I mean, depending, but all of this, like, my whole Skylanders AU really started when I started, like, and always when I've either roleplayed a character or I've, put myself in the shoes of a character, I've researched them, I've looked into them. And I remember researching Chaos and, like, looking at his wiki page and everything, and for one, Richard Horvitz is an absolute godsend. I was so surprised when I heard him in Alluvia Boss, or don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but the animation, which is the spin-off of Has Been Hotel from Visibop, I was so surprised when I heard him in that, and I instantly fell in love. Any character he plays, he just brings to life. I was so lucky I got to see him at Comic-Con a couple years ago, but it was... Researching him, there were so many loopholes in his backstory. Like, at one point, his mother, Cassandra, was a portal master, but then at other points she hated portal masters, and then Chaos originally had two brothers, and we never met his father, which we later find out that his father was Eon, but even that brings up plot holes and everything. But I remember looking at that and thinking, none of this makes any sense. Let's put my own spin on it. And that's how I started Skylanders Historia, which is also a big part of the AU I've been working on, because it's kind of like the backstory stories to the characters. Like, it's how Chaos got his markings, and how he got quote-unquote banished. He calls it banishment, really it was him running away and shunning himself from reality. How he died. In my AU, Chaos is technically immortal due to the powers gifted to him by the darkness. And I'm probably going to go into a whole video about that, because I need a reason to get back into that fandom. And I absolutely adore the AU I made. It was just fabulous. I mean, looking back on it, it's probably absolutely horrible, and I really need to rewrite some of that stuff, but, like, I'm gonna see if I can get my friend into Skylanders so I can introduce some of the characters in our roleplay. But, I remember looking at it being like, hey, none of this makes any sense. Why don't I rewrite it? I find often around this time, if I end up going back and rewriting this intro paragraph to Historia over and over and over again, I might do a writing live stream sometime if you guys are interested in that, because it just... It's a part of my history that I will cherish forever. I've sort of been drifting away, again, because I don't need that buffer for reality anymore, and also because one friend that I was in a relationship for a while with someone who was also big into the fandom, but frick, what did I do? But because of how we parted ways, it kind of tainted everything for me. Which, again, I'm trying to currently separate myself from that, but it was a situation, to say the least. That's bugging me. I'll just ignore it. And I'll probably go into depth in that in a different video. I've been saying that a lot. But the main point is, like, inserting yourself into a character is fine. That came out wrong. Smut is fine. God knows I have written some smut about chaos. It's... Don't come at me with pitchforks. Role-playing is a wonderful thing. And also, that was an adorable roleplay, and you really need to get back in touch with K9 Diamond. She was fantastic, but yeah. That actually is a bit of a segue into the next topic. Well, I guess I'm still technically wanting to touch on self-inserts and everything. I think I've touched on that fairly good. 30 minutes of character rambles, and now 30 minutes of shipping. Ta-da! The thing everybody loves to hate. Now, if you don't already know this about me, I am a rabid shipper. I'm a bit of a hopeless romantic, and I often find I get that out in roleplay through shipping. Like, I don't know how many times I've shipped chaos with characters, and I touched more on that in my roleplay pet peeves video, and I guess this is also going to touch on stuff I technically mentioned in that, but there's 3 different sort of genres of shipping. There's OCX OC, OCX character, and then character X character. Where, and again, people are probably going to hate me for this, but all of those are fine. All of those are great. They're amazing. If you want to ship Princess Sparkle Blossom Euro C with Glumshanks from Skylanders, I'm using a lot of Skylanders examples. Hi, I'm Scrape. I'm a weeb. Skylanders isn't an anime. But then go right ahead. In my personal opinion, if I'm going to be role-playing with someone or writing a story that includes romance or shipping, it needs to be a believable dynamic, and it needs to be in character for the characters. But if it's just something you're doing on your own, or you're posting about, or anything that, and you want to, like, again, this isn't an OCX character, but this is character X character that I personally don't support, which is Cassandra X Glumshanks. But I know a lot of people who do ship that. Well, I believe that Glumshanks is gay based off of canon and nonsense that has been mentioned in the show and the games, and just his general mannerisms. He's definitely coded to be gay. Like, character coding. I'll try to link a video about that if I remember. But he's definitely character coded to be gay. Or at least of the LGBTQ community. But I know a lot of people on these Skylanders, and especially that ship Cassandra and Glumshanks because of their dynamic in Skylanders Academy. And, well, I personally might not support that ship. I don't go around hating on people that do. I might have in the past, because I was a dumb child. But, it might not technically be canon compliant, but again, also canon was made to be broken. Nobody can roleplay a character exactly like the canon does, and nobody can write a character exactly like the canon does. Sometimes not even the canon can get the character right, like if there's multiple different writers or stuff like that, but my throat is hurting. like, not everyone is going to be able to write a character exactly the way that. No! I'm in the middle of recording! What do you want? Thanks. Grace. Grace, I'm recording. Grace, leave, I'm recording. Grace, I can't do this with people in the room. Go play with Loki. Close the door. Thank you, I love you. Interruptions. But anyway, where was I? Great, I can't remember where I was. But, canon was made to be broken. That's stuff on that. But, again, and these are just kind of rules that I follow. For character X character shits, it's sort of the same deal, but I'll try to go in order. So starting with character X character. If they're your characters, do whatever the fuck you want to. Like, even if I not, from what I know, even if, wow, I can English good. If they're your characters, and you believe they would work good together, go right ahead. Like, even if your quote-unquote fans or whatever don't believe that they should go together, it's your canon, they're your characters. It's the same sort of deal with character XOC. Like, and again, this could go for self-inserts and everything, but shipping yourself or your character with a canon character, like, I'm just going to use something that's not Skylanders for once as an example, but the Arcana. The whole point of that game is creating a character and putting it into the game, which is oftentimes yourself or a different character. I decided to name my character Loki because I'm a dweeb like that, but like the Arcana, the whole point is to ship a character with another character. And, well, some people might not believe the personalities to be compatible or whatever, but if it brings you joy, congratulations, don't care what anyone else thinks, darling, you're doing fabulous. My inner teasing came out, I'm sorry. But, and again, I guess this is something that's like, it's the same sort of deal with OCXOC, but when I ship characters together, oftentimes I try to do it where their personalities are compatible. So, like, oh, and another thing for OCXOC, I forgot to touch about on this, but if you're shipping your characters with another person's characters, or two of someone else's characters together, make sure to get permission. Like, most definitely make sure to get permission to be able to do that, because sometimes, like, of course, fan art is always appreciated of people's characters, at least in some, like, from my personal opinion. Again, it's different depending on who you're talking to and everything, but if you're, say, drawing characters together, or role-playing characters together, always make sure the ship is okay with the other participant involved. Like, I remember a lot of times, again, let's go back to my shipping video, it's just my shipping video, my roleplay video, where a lot of times I would have people coming to me to roleplay for the sole purpose of shipping their OC with Chaos. And I would be perfectly fine with that, as long as it made sense. Like, if I'm going to be involved, I want the ship to make sense. But that's not OCXOC. But if you're shipping, say, this is more of a friendship than anything, they're friends with benefits. But My character Tazen with my friend's character Vex. He's the one with the horns in the image that I'm drawing. He's the frost giant. He's the son of Loki. Again, okay, this is something completely different, but having characters that are the son of canon characters, that's perfectly fine. Son or daughter, like fanship characters. Like he wasn't originally. I think they changed it slightly, but Vex is the love child. I don't know how else to put it, of the Grandmaster and Loki. Frostmaster is a good ship. Fight me. If you don't support it, that's perfectly fine. Please don't hate on me for liking it, though. And I'm talking about good consensual Frostmaster, none of the rapey shit. I don't like the rapey shit. I love the ship where they are. They support each other. They're both people who are flawed and have issues, and they need each other to help with that. But, like, again, my character Tazen and Vex are known for sleeping with each other, basically. But of course, before we did any of that, I went over with my friend to make sure that the ship was okay. Again, there's another ship which is, and this is two. This is more of a romance than anything, because one of the characters is asexual, which is Cesros, who's the little boyo in the Santa, in the snowman onesie with the wings. That's Cesros. And my character, who's originally a friend's character, but whatever. Love them. They're amazing. But my character was originally a friend's character, but they gave him to me because they weren't doing anything with them. Prince. Or Osiris. Prince is his other incarnation. It's a long story. But Prince and Osiris are a beautiful couple. But of course, before we went ahead with anything, we went over with each other and be like, hey, should we go through with this? Are you okay with this? Like, I don't want to just suddenly have them be together, but... And again, sometimes it wasn't even like... It'd just be context clues or stuff like that, like... Currently they're stuck on Earth because they were shunned by the angels. Long story. But, and I mean, there's a whole lot of shit going on with them. We kind of pushed them to the side for the time being, though. Another one, which I'm drawing him right now, but it was V and Leighton, which is Space Stone and Power Stone. V is the Power Stone, Leighton is the Space Stone. Well, the incarnations, space, power. They love each other so freaking much. I say that about a lot of characters, but before we shipped them, we went over it and we're like, hey, is this okay? Hey, are you comfortable with this? And like sometimes ships happen naturally, other times they're pre-planned. Like originally those two characters hated each other, and again, I talked about this. This is one of my favorite tropes, which is hate to love, which also happens to be the trope that that Tazen and Krona follow. But I don't actually think that one was pre-planned. Sometimes the ships are pre-planned, other times they're not. But this has turned more into role-play nonsense. But shipping, in my personal book, shipping OCs with OCs or OCs with canon characters, if someone else is playing character, or the OC that you're shipping it with, go over it with them to make sure they're comfortable with the ship, for one. For two, just in general, make sure they're comfortable if you're role-playing with them. Like, if you're going to be doing anything, like, a lot of people don't like to talk about this, but role-playing sin or anything like that, make sure the other person's comfortable. And make sure you're not, like, alienating them or going through with it. If they don't like it, if they don't want to do it, maybe, like, skip or be like, hey, should we just try to redo the scene or something like that so it doesn't lead to this outcome? Or you just skip it and, like, allude to the fact that they did it. That also works, but that censorship and sin and all that fun stuff is another video that I've had in making, but haven't gotten around to actually doing. But shipping characters, if it's a roleplay, make sure the other party is okay. If there's someone else's characters, make sure the person that owns the characters is okay with it. I mean, I guess you can't do that with, like, mainstream stuff like Marvel or Skylanders, but, like, if you know the artist or you know the maker and, like, stuff like that, where it's like, I'll use Pompadour as an example. Like, I know for a fact they don't like people role-playing as their characters, but I don't actually know if they allow people doing different ships than they've already okayed. And again, please don't go and harass people for having rules surrounding their OCs. Like, when you get to a point where you're a popular artist or a popular creator or anything like that, it gets to a point where sometimes you have to put rules and regulations around your OCs so that people don't either claim them as their own or do things with them that you aren't comfortable with. But where was I going? Make sure the parties that are involved are comfortable with the ship. I mean, if you're doing canon x canon, you can't really... It's a weird gray line between OCs of a fandom you follow or canon characters. I don't know how to... Basically, just use common sense, please. Like, when shipping characters... Also, don't ship underage characters or put underage characters in a sexual situation. Because, like, if they're... And aging them up is one thing. Like, I've seen art of aged up characters, like, from Boku no Hero in suggestive situations, but they're aged up, they're 18 or older, they're of legal age to be in those situations, and be okay with that. Like, at least, and this is gonna be really stupid, but if you must keep them close to their legal, or their current age, at least have them be 16. Or whatever the legal age is of consent for the area you live in. Where I live, it's 16. But, like, don't... Just common sense, please. I know that's a hard thing to ask for in this day and age. Okay, boomer. But try to use common sense. Try to realize that if the other party or the other person engaged isn't comfortable, then maybe try to change what you're going for, or try to... Like, it can't always be about you. You have to cater to the other party as well. And if you're uncomfortable, speak up about it. Like, if someone is shipping your character with a character that you don't agree with, or they wouldn't be together, or if you're role-playing with someone and they're doing something you're not comfortable with, speak up about it. Be vocal about it. Like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. Could we change it slightly, or could we redo this scene? And, like, common sense is a big thing. Also, don't be discouraged if you end up posting things about ships and people don't appreciate it or like it as much. Like, I know when I used to post a lot of Karya, which is one of my friends' characters, who I guess I sort of adopted at least the Skylanders version of them, but the character Shoria and the character Chaos. Shoria is an OC and Chaos is a canon character. And again, not many people like OCX canon characters, but again, for one, it has to do with the narrative they are both put in. And like, if we're going just with canon Chaos, I ship him with Glumshanks. Not that I wouldn't ship him with an OC, but I think from the point of you shipping an OC with a canon character, it sort of becomes like its own AU. Like the moment you put characters that are that are like you made them, if you put them into an already existing franchise, it's sort of like an AU on itself. It can follow the exact same canon storyline with different characters, and it would still be an AU, at least in my eyes. And again, feel free to dispute me on this, but because of that fact, I feel like there is no room to hate on someone for shipping their OC with a canon character. Again, you might disagree with it, or you might not like the ship, or you might not like the person making it, but just because you don't personally like something doesn't give you the right to discourage or deface, hate on. Basically, even if you don't like something, it doesn't give you the right to make fun of it. Or to go and be like, you, like, EW, or, that's gross, or anything like that. You're stupid! But, I swear one of these days I'm going to get better at this. Every time I take just like a little break, I seem to get worse. But, like, Ewy. Trying to think. So, we've, for the most part, covered Canon X Canon. No, we covered OCXOC, Canon XOC. No, I think we've covered Canon X Canon. No. Oh. Wow. I might need to start taking notes for these things. I don't know. Or at least have more of an idea of what I want to talk about when going into it. Because I just kind of sat down and was like, hey, OC's self-inserts are a thing. My whole thought process was, let's talk about self-inserts and why they're still cool. And why they're okay. And then it just devolved into shipping. Let's talk about my AU that no one wants to hear about. Anyway. So, Canon X Canon. Your characters, do whatever the frick you... No. OCXOC. If you're there, your characters, do whatever the frick you want. If there's someone else's characters, make sure to ask permission. If it's your character or someone else's character, same thing goes. Be respectful. Use your noggin. Don't go against basic human decency, please. OCX Canon. It doesn't freaking matter what anyone else thinks. If you enjoy it, that's all that matters. Again, please, human decency. Don't be shipping a canon character with a canon character that is like 6 with a middle-aged man. Or like any shit like that. And also be aware that people might dislike it. You don't, again, if you're making these things, you don't have to post them. Because there is a high likelihood that people won't like them, or, well, there'll be some backlash against it, which is okay. Again, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, free speech and whatnot. And you do also have the right to talk back to them and explain your ship and things like that. They might not agree, or you might not agree, but if, yeah, wow, English. Yes, Canon XOC, wonderful. OCXOC, fabulous. Canon X Canon, yes. Again, and this is my personal opinion, but if the character is already in a canonical ship with someone, or a canonical relationship, then I personally don't like shipping them with things outside of that canonical relationship. Like Cassandra and Eon, by the end of the show, they end up getting back together. But if you want to ship Cassandra and Glumshanks, or, and again, I haven't actually seen this, but a polyamorous relationship between Cassandra, Eon, and Glumshanks, that's great. Like, you do you, boo. It's not my thing, and I'm not saying polyamorous isn't my thing, because I do have a couple polyamorous ships that I absolutely adore, but that one, just in particular, is not my thing. And also, like, yeah. If you want to ship canon and canon characters, or if you want to ship canon characters together, if they are, like, again, human decency, please and thank you. But, yeah. That's kind of, I kind of derailed, but that's usually what I do during these things, so. Thank you, Single Fruit Loop, for tuning in. I'm just gonna pop the original, or the finished image up screen. Here we go. This is the finished image. Here we have Asvar, the first son of Loki, Vex, the second son of Loki, and his fabulous Jotun form. We have Sezros, Moss, and V, and also Little Samex down there. He's usually not in that form, but I didn't have room to put him anywhere else. So, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Skype Rambles On for 57 minutes about absolutely nothing and decides to be a derp. If you like my content, you know the drill. Ooh woo. Typical YouTuber nonsense. If you don't like my content, feel free to state so in the comments. I love reading everything you guys have to say. Like, hate comments are my absolute favorite. They're really not. They make me cry. But also, people take the time to put them down there, so thank you for taking your time to type 17 letters of stupid. It makes me happy, and I appreciate the effort you put into this. I'm gonna go rewrite Skyland's Historia first paragraph for the 15th time. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Bye!